Have you ever felt like you're working twice as hard just to tread water? Yeah, you're definitely not alone. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive paradigm shift in modern household finances. We're talking about the absolute exhaustion of the dual income family, and we're going to break down exactly why making more money might actually, literally, be leaving you broker than having just one income.
Okay, let's picture a super relatable modern couple. Say she's in marketing, he's in IT, and combined they pull in a solid $133,000 a year. Now, on paper, they're in the top 25% of households. They should be absolutely crushing it, right? Taking vacations, maxing out retirement accounts, feeling completely financially secure. But they aren't. Instead, they're stressed out. They're living paycheck to paycheck, they've got maybe 2 months of savings, and when a random car repair popped up last month, boom, it went straight on a credit card. They're exhausted, they're grinding away, and they're probably asking themselves that familiar question. We make way too much money to feel this broke.
And that exact feeling, that's what leads us to our core concept today. Back in 2003, before she was in the Senate, then Harvard bankruptcy law professor Elizabeth Warren and her daughter Amelia Warren-Tyagi analyzed over 2,000 family bankruptcies. And what they found was genuinely shocking. They discovered that doing everything right by having two incomes actually makes you more likely to go bankrupt. Crazy, right? This isn't some personal finance failure. It's a systemic economic phenomenon known as the two-income trap, where dual-income families are surprisingly way more financially vulnerable than single-income ones.
To really understand how we fell into this trap, we kind of have to rewind and look at our baseline. Let's travel back to the 1970s. Back then, female workforce participation was hovering around 43%. The typical middle-class family had one primary breadwinner and one parent managing the household. And what's incredible to think about today is that a single median income could comfortably cover a median-priced home, which took up about 25% of their income, along with a car, healthcare, and still leave plenty of room for savings. And that non-working parent? They acted as an unactivated, built-in emergency backup plan if the primary earner ever lost their job.
But when we compare that 1970s family to a typical 2023 family, the structural difference is just jarring. Today, female workforce participation is at 57%, and in over 60% of married couples with kids, both parents are working full-time. So we've fundamentally shifted from having this unactivated emergency backup plan to activating that backup plan just as our everyday default operating mode. Modern families are basically operating at 100% capacity with absolutely zero backup plan left in reserve.
Now, the reason we had to activate that second income in the first place becomes crystal clear when you look at the math. Today's inflation-adjusted median income is roughly $74,000, which is actually higher than it was in 1970. We are technically making more money, but the fixed costs of simply existing in the middle class have just absolutely exploded. Adjusted for inflation, housing costs have doubled, a 100% jump. Healthcare spending per household spiked by 600%. In education, a staggering 1,200% increase since 1980. So that second income, it didn't go to fun stuff like vacations or boats. It was completely swallowed up by the exploding fixed costs of basic middle-class survival.
So let's get into Section 1, the brutal math of the second income.
I'm going to walk you through the exact and frankly brutal breakdown of what actually happens to that second paycheck. Let's take a theoretical household making $120,000 a year, where one partner makes $70,000 and the other makes $50,000. Let's start the countdown by looking strictly at that $50,000 second income. When you look at this number on a tax return, it looks fantastic, right? It feels like this massive leap forward in building wealth.
But hold on. First, we have to deduct progressive taxes. Because the primary earner's $70,000 already fills up the lower tax brackets, this new $50,000 comes in right at the very top of the stack. It's taxed at the highest marginal rate. Factoring in federal, state, and payroll taxes, the effective tax rate on this specific chunk of money is around 30 to 35%. Instantly, our $50,000 take-home pay drops to roughly $32,000. Okay, now we subtract childcare. With both parents working, someone has to watch the kids, obviously, and the average cost of daycare in America right now is a staggering $15,000 a year, and that's just for one child. Once we pay that daycare bill, our $32,000 suddenly plummets to just $17,000. But wait, we're not done. Two working parents also means two commutes. You have to factor in a second car, the gas, the ongoing maintenance, insurance, maybe parking downtown. Those commuting costs easily eat up another $8,000 a year. Subtract that, and our second income is now sitting at a pretty meager $9,000.
So the crucial point here is what happens to our actual lifestyle when we are stretched this thin.
we have to subtract another $7,000 for what we call exhaustion expenses. Think about it. 2 10-hour workdays plus commutes leave literally zero energy for domestic labor. You're ordering takeout, hiring house cleaners, paying for convenience services just because you are way too tired to do it yourself. This brings our final number down to $2,000.
I really want this emotional gut punch to sink in for a second. Sacrificing family time, battling daily traffic, and grinding at a full-time job might only net this household a realistic $2,000 for the entire year. If you break that down, it's $8 per workday. That is just $1 per hour of actual net financial gain for the household.
And this highlights the very essence of the trap. The research uses this incredibly powerful metaphor. It's like a car running with no oil in the engine. Everything works fine until it doesn't. Because families look at their gross $120,000 income and they go out and buy a $400,000 house based on that combined number. Both incomes are completely spoken for just to cover the baseline mortgage and the bills. So if just one person gets sick, gets laid off, or frankly just burns out, there is zero buffer. The entire financial structure collapses immediately.
Which brings us to Section 2, the bidding war trap.
Now you might be wondering, how on earth did we let this happen systemically? Families didn't just wake up one morning and decide to become irresponsible spenders. It really comes down to an arms race for middle-class basics, particularly housing and education. See, when 2 incomes became the societal norm, a family's purchasing power theoretically doubled. But since good schools are tied to local property taxes, parents use that doubled purchasing power to bid up the prices of houses in those good school districts. It forced a massive bidding war. Suddenly, everyone needed 2 incomes just to afford the exact same basic standard of living that 1 income used to buy.
And the result of this bidding war is deeply concerning. A 2019 Federal Reserve study found that 40% of Americans cannot cover a $400 emergency without borrowing or selling something. And what's super important to note here is that many of the people in that 40% aren't unemployed. They are dual income earners who make really solid money on paper. But because their fixed expenses have expanded to consume every single dollar of their combined earnings, they are quite literally one transmission repair away from total financial crisis.
Okay, seeing all this math laid out can feel a bit overwhelming, right? And it's completely valid to feel like, well, I can't just simply quit my job tomorrow. You've built a whole life that relies on both incomes. So the big question is, how do we actually escape the trap when we are already fully in it?
That leads us to Section 3, the one income foundation.
The answer really lies in a massive mindset shift. We absolutely need to stop viewing both incomes as permanent and instead build what we call a one income foundation. There are 2 critical steps to execute this and actually survive the modern economy. Step 1, size your fixed non-negotiable costs, things like your mortgage and your car payments, so they can be covered entirely by just 1 income. Step 2, take that second income and absolutely refuse to let it get swallowed by fixed lifestyle expenses. Use it strictly for wealth building, saving, and buying yourself optionality.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine your household earns $130,000, let's say $75,000 and $55,000. The key here is to live like you only make $75,000. Buy a house that you can comfortably afford on $60,000 a year. Have 1 car payment instead of 2. Then you take that entire $55,000 second income and you just bank it. You pour it directly into emergency funds, retirement accounts, and taxable investments. Now yes, this requires some serious short-term sacrifice. It means driving past the nicer houses you technically qualify for and ignoring the social pressure to spend like your dual income peers. But within 5 to 10 years, those compounding investments and emergency funds do something truly incredible. They buy back your flexibility. It gives you the ability to take career risks, the freedom to step away to care for an aging parent, or maybe stay home with a child. It actually delivers the financial security you thought having 2 incomes was supposed to provide in the very first place.
Which leaves us with this final thought. True wealth, it isn't about appearances. And it certainly isn't just about high cash flow that immediately flies out the door to pay a massive mortgage. True wealth is flexibility. It's margin. It's the ability to absorb a life shock without your entire world collapsing around you. You can't earn your way out of a trap you don't realize you're in. But now that you know the math, the power is entirely in your hands. So I'll leave you with this question to ask yourself today. What is your backup plan? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this helps you look at your financial foundation in a whole new way.